Hello, family in Christ. In this video, we will go over the book of Exodus, chapters 1 to 40. We will look at Moses as he helps set the Israelites free from Egypt. This will be a peaceful reading set to a calming video, great for relaxing or winding down for bed.
Exodus, chapter 1. These are the names of the sons of Israel who came to Egypt with Jacob, each with his family: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. All the descendants of Jacob were 70 in number, but Joseph was already in Egypt. Now Joseph and all his brothers and all that generation passed away. But the Israelites were fruitful and multiplied greatly. They became exceedingly numerous, so that the land was filled with them. Then a new king, who did not know about Joseph, came to power in Egypt. He said to his people, "Look, the Israelites have become far too many for us. We must deal with them shrewdly, or they will become even more numerous, and if war breaks out, they may join our enemies, fight against us, and leave the country." So they put slave masters over them to oppress them with forced labor, and they built the store cities of Pithom and Ramses for Pharaoh. But the more they were oppressed, the more they multiplied and spread. So the Egyptians came to dread the Israelites and worked them ruthlessly. They made their lives bitter with hard labor in brick and mortar, and with all kinds of work in the fields. The king of Egypt said to the Hebrew midwives, whose names were Shiphrah and Puah, "When you help the Hebrew women in childbirth and see them on the delivery stool, if it is a boy, kill him, but if it is a girl, let her live." But the midwives feared God and did not do what the king of Egypt had told them. They let the boys live. Then the king of Egypt summoned the midwives and asked them, "Why have you done this? Why have you let the boys live?" The midwives answered Pharaoh, "Hebrew women are not like Egyptian women. They are vigorous and give birth before the midwives arrive." So God was kind to the midwives, and the people increased and became even more numerous. Because the midwives feared God, He gave them families of their own. Then Pharaoh gave this order to all his people: "Every boy that is born you must throw into the Nile, but let every girl live."
Exodus, chapter 2. A man of the tribe of Levi married a Levite woman, and she gave birth to a son. When she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him for 3 months. But when she could hide him no longer, she got a papyrus basket for him, coated it with tar and pitch, placed the child in it, and put it among the reeds along the bank of the Nile. His sister stood at a distance to see what would happen to him. Then Pharaoh's daughter went down to the Nile to bathe, and her attendants were walking along the riverbank. She saw the basket among the reeds and sent her slave girl to get it. She opened it and saw the baby. He was crying, and she felt sorry for him. "This is one of the Hebrew babies," she said. Then his sister asked Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and get one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you?" "Yes, go," she answered. And the girl went and got the baby's mother. Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this baby and nurse him for me, and I will pay you." So the woman took the baby and nursed him. When the child grew older, she took him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. She named him Moses, saying, "I drew him out of the water." One day, after Moses had grown up, he went out to where his own people were and watched them at their hard labor. He saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his own people. Looking this way and that, and seeing no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. The next day he went out and saw two Hebrews fighting. He asked the one in the wrong, "Why are you hitting your fellow Hebrew?" The man said, "Who made you ruler and judge over us? Are you thinking of killing me as you killed the Egyptian?" Then Moses was afraid and thought, "What I did must have become known." When Pharaoh heard of this, he tried to kill Moses, but Moses fled from Pharaoh and went to live in Midian, where he sat down by a well. Now a priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came to draw water and fill the troughs to water their father's flock. Some shepherds came along and drove them away, but Moses got up and came to their rescue and watered their flock. When the girls returned to Reuel their father, he asked them, "Why have you returned so early today?" They answered, "An Egyptian rescued us from the shepherds. He even drew water for us and watered the flock." "And where is he?" he asked his daughters. "Why did you leave him? Invite him to have something to eat." Moses agreed to stay with the man, who gave his daughter Zipporah to Moses in marriage. Zipporah gave birth to a son, and Moses named him Gershom, saying, "I have become a stranger in a foreign land." During that long period, the king of Egypt died. The Israelites groaned in their slavery and cried out, and their cry for help went up to God. God heard their groaning, and he remembered his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So God looked on the Israelites and was concerned about them.
Exodus chapter 3. Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the far side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him in flames of fire from within a bush. Moses saw that though the bush was on fire, it did not burn up. So Moses thought, "I will go over and see this strange sight, why the bush does not burn up." When the Lord saw that he had gone over to look, God called to him from within the bush, "Moses, Moses." And Moses said, "Here I am." "Do not come any closer," God said. "Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground." Then he said, "I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." At this, Moses hid his face because he was afraid to look at God. The Lord said, "I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I have heard them crying out because of their slave drivers, and I am concerned about their suffering. So I have come down to rescue them from the hand of the Egyptians and to bring them up out of that land into a good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey. So now go. I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people the Israelites out of Egypt." But Moses said to God, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt?" God said, "I will be with you, and this will be the sign to you that it is I who have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you will worship God on this mountain." Moses said to God, "Suppose I go to the Israelites and say to them, 'The God of your fathers has sent me to you,' and they ask me, 'What is his name?' Then what shall I tell them?" God said to Moses, "I am who I am. Tell them, 'I am has sent you to me.'" God also said, "Say to the Israelites, 'The Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob has sent me to you. This is my name forever, the name you shall call me from generation to generation." Then God instructed Moses to gather the elders of Israel and tell them that God had appeared and promised to bring them out of Egypt into the land of the Canaanites, a land flowing with milk and honey. He told Moses that the elders would listen, and together they would go to Pharaoh and ask permission to go into the wilderness to worship. But God warned Moses that Pharaoh would not let them go unless a mighty hand compelled him. So God said he would stretch out his hand and strike Egypt with wonders, and afterward Pharaoh would let them go.
Exodus Chapter 4. Moses answered, "What if they do not believe me or listen to me, and say, 'The Lord did not appear to you'?" Then the Lord said to him, "What is that in your hand?" "A staff," he replied. The Lord said, "Throw it on the ground." Moses threw it on the ground, and it became a snake, and he ran from it. Then the Lord said, "Reach out your hand and take it by the tail." So Moses reached out and took hold of the snake, and it turned back into a staff in his hand. The Lord said, "This is so that they may believe that the Lord, the God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, has appeared to you." Then the Lord gave Moses other signs, his hand turning leprous and then healed, and the promise of turning water from the Nile into blood. But Moses said to the Lord, "Pardon your servant, Lord. I have never been eloquent, neither in the past nor since you have spoken to your servant. I am slow of speech and tongue." The Lord said to him, "Who gave human beings their mouths? Who makes them deaf or mute? Who gives them sight or makes them blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, I will help you speak and will teach you what to say." But Moses said, "Pardon your servant, Lord. Please send someone else." Then the Lord's anger burned against Moses, and he said, "What about your brother, Aaron, the Levite? I know he can speak well. He is already on his way to meet you, and he will be glad to see you. You shall speak to him and put words in his mouth. I will help both of you speak and will teach you what to do." So Moses took his wife and sons, put them on a donkey, and started back to Egypt. And he took the staff of God in his hand. On the way, the Lord said to Aaron, "Go into the wilderness to meet Moses." So he met Moses at the mountain of God and kissed him. Then Moses told Aaron everything the Lord had sent him to say, and also about all the signs he had commanded him to perform. Moses and Aaron brought together all the elders of the Israelites, and Aaron told them everything the Lord had said to Moses. He also performed the signs before the people, and they believed. When they heard that the Lord was concerned about them and had seen their misery, they bowed down and worshipped.
Exodus chapter 5. Afterward, Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and said, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says, 'Let my people go, so that they may hold a festival to me in the wilderness.'" Pharaoh said, "Who is the Lord, that I should obey him and let Israel go? I do not know the Lord, and I will not let Israel go." Then they said, "The God of the Hebrews has met with us. Now let us take a 3-day journey into the wilderness to offer sacrifices to the Lord our God, or he may strike us with plagues or with the sword." But the king of Egypt said, "Moses and Aaron, why are you taking the people away from their labor? Get back to your work." And Pharaoh commanded that the people be given no more straw for making bricks, but they must gather their own straw while still producing the same number of bricks. The Israelite overseers realized they were in trouble and went to Pharaoh, saying, "Why do you treat your servants this way? You give us no straw, yet we are told to make bricks. Your servants are being beaten, but the fault is with your own people." Pharaoh said, "Lazy, that's what you are, lazy. That is why you keep saying, 'Let us go and sacrifice to the Lord.' Now get to work. You will not be given any straw, yet you must produce your full quota of bricks." The Israelite overseers found Moses and Aaron waiting for them and said, "May the Lord look on you and judge you. You have made us obnoxious to Pharaoh and his officials, and have put a sword in their hand to kill us." Moses returned to the Lord and said, "Why, Lord, have you brought trouble on this people? Is this why you sent me?" Ever since I went to Pharaoh to speak in your name, he has brought trouble on this people, and you have not rescued your people at all."
Exodus chapter 6. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Now you will see what I will do to Pharaoh. Because of my mighty hand he will let them go. Because of my mighty hand he will drive them out of his country." God also said to Moses, "I am the Lord. I appeared to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob as God Almighty. But by my name the Lord, I did not make myself fully known to them. I also established my covenant with them to give them the land of Canaan, where they lived as foreigners. Moreover, I have heard the groaning of the Israelites, whom the Egyptians are enslaving, and I have remembered my covenant. Therefore say to the Israelites, I am the Lord, and I will bring you out from under the yoke of the Egyptians. I will free you from being slaves, and I will redeem you with an outstretched arm and with mighty acts of judgment. I will take you as my own people, and I will be your God. Then you will know that I am the Lord your God who brought you out from under the yoke of the Egyptians. And I will bring you to the land I swore with uplifted hand to give to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I will give it to you as a possession. I am the Lord." Moses reported this to the Israelites, but they did not listen to him because of their discouragement and harsh slavery. Then the Lord told Moses to go speak to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, so he would let the Israelites go. Moses replied, "If the Israelites will not listen to me, why would Pharaoh listen to me, since I speak with faltering lips?" God gave Moses and Aaron a command about the Israelites and Pharaoh to bring the Israelites out of Egypt.
Exodus chapter 7. The Lord said to Moses, "See, I have made you like God to Pharaoh, and your brother Aaron will be your prophet. You are to say everything I command you, and your brother Aaron is to tell Pharaoh to let the Israelites go out of his country. But I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and though I multiply my signs and wonders in Egypt, he will not listen. Then I will lay my hand on Egypt, and with mighty acts of judgment I will bring out my people, and the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord." Moses and Aaron did just as the Lord commanded. Moses was 80 years old, and Aaron 83 when they spoke to Pharaoh. When Pharaoh demanded a sign, Aaron threw down his staff before Pharaoh, and it became a snake. Pharaoh's magicians did the same with their secret arts, but Aaron's staff swallowed up their staffs. Still, Pharaoh's heart was hard, and he would not listen. Then God told Moses to meet Pharaoh at the river in the morning and strike the Nile with his staff. Aaron stretched out his hand, struck the water, and it turned into blood. The fish died, and the river smelled so bad the Egyptians could not drink its water. But Pharaoh's heart was hard, and he turned and went into his palace, paying no attention.
Exodus chapter 8.
Then the Lord said, "Go to Pharaoh and say to him, 'This is what the Lord says, let my people go, so they may worship me. If you refuse, I will plague your country with frogs.'" Aaron stretched out his hand, and frogs came up and covered the land of Egypt. The magicians did the same with their secret arts, but Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron and said, "Pray to the Lord to take the frogs away, and I will let your people go to offer sacrifices." Moses prayed, and the frogs died in the houses, courtyards, and fields. But when Pharaoh saw relief had come, he hardened his heart again. Next, Aaron struck the dust of the ground, and nets came on people and animals. The magicians tried to produce nets, but could not. They said to Pharaoh, "This is the finger of God." But Pharaoh's heart was hard.
Then God sent swarms of flies into Pharaoh's palace and into the houses of his officials, ruining the land. Pharaoh summoned Moses and said, "Go, sacrifice to your God here in the land." But Moses said that would not be right, for their sacrifices would be detestable to the Egyptians. So Pharaoh agreed to let them go, but once the flies were gone, Pharaoh hardened his heart again and would not let the people go.
Exodus chapter 9. The Lord said, "Go to Pharaoh and tell him, 'This is what the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, says, Let my people go so they may worship me. If you refuse, I will send a plague on your livestock.'" The next day, all the livestock of the Egyptians died, but none of the Israelites' livestock was touched. Yet Pharaoh's heart was hard. Then the Lord told Moses and Aaron to take handfuls of soot from a furnace and toss it into the air. Festering boils broke out on people and animals throughout Egypt. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not listen. Then the Lord said, "Go to Pharaoh and say, 'This is what the Lord says. Let my people go so they may worship me, or I will send the full force of my plagues against you. For by now I could have stretched out my hand and struck you and your people with a plague that would wipe you off the earth. But I have raised you up for this very purpose, that I might show you my power, and that my name might be proclaimed in all the earth." Then Moses stretched out his staff toward the sky, and the Lord sent thunder, hail, and lightning down on Egypt. It was the worst storm in all the land since it had become a nation. Only in the land of Goshen, where the Israelites were, was there no hail. Pharaoh summoned Moses and said, "I have sinned. The Lord is in the right, and I and my people are in the wrong. Pray to the Lord for the thunder and hail to stop, and I will let you go." Moses prayed, and the hail stopped. But Pharaoh sinned again and hardened his heart.
Exodus chapter 10. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Go to Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart, and the hearts of his officials, so that I may perform these signs among them, that you may tell your children and grandchildren how I dealt harshly with the Egyptians, and how I performed my signs among them, and that you may know that I am the Lord." So Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and said, "This is what the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, says. How long will you refuse to humble yourself before me? Let my people go, so they may worship me. If you refuse, I will bring locusts into your country tomorrow. They will cover the face of the ground until it cannot be seen. They will devour what little you have left after the hail, including every tree growing in your fields." Pharaoh's officials said to him, "How long will this man be a snare to us? Let the people go, so they may worship the Lord their God. Do you not yet realize that Egypt is ruined?" Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron and said, "Go, worship the Lord your God. But tell me, who will be going?" Moses answered, "We will go with our young and old, with our sons and daughters, with our flocks and herds, because we are to celebrate a festival to the Lord." Pharaoh said, "No, the men may go and worship the Lord, but you must leave your women and children." And he had Moses and Aaron driven out of his presence.
Then the Lord told Moses to stretch out his hand, and locusts swarmed over all Egypt, devouring everything growing in the fields. Pharaoh quickly summoned Moses and Aaron and said, "I have sinned against the Lord your God and against you. Forgive my sin once more and pray to the Lord your God to take this deadly plague away." Moses prayed, and the Lord changed the wind, and the locusts were swept into the sea. Not a locust was left anywhere in Egypt. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let the Israelites go. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand toward the sky, so that darkness spreads over Egypt." For 3 days no one could see anyone else or move about, yet all the Israelites had light in the places where they lived. Pharaoh summoned Moses and said, "Go worship the Lord. Even your women and children may go with you. Only leave your flocks and herds behind." But Moses said, "You must allow us to have sacrifices and burnt offerings to present to the Lord our God. Our livestock too must go with us. Not a hoof is to be left behind." Then Pharaoh became angry and said, "Leave my presence. Make sure you do not appear before me again. The day you see my face, you will die." Moses replied, "Just as you say, I will never appear before you again."
Exodus chapter 11. Now the Lord had said to Moses, "I will bring one more plague on Pharaoh and on Egypt. After that, he will let you go from here, and when he does, he will drive you out completely." Moses announced to Pharaoh, "This is what the Lord says. About midnight I will go throughout Egypt. Every firstborn son in Egypt will die, from the firstborn son of Pharaoh who sits on the throne, to the firstborn son of the female slave, and even the firstborn of the cattle. There will be loud wailing throughout Egypt, worse than there has ever been or ever will be again. But among the Israelites, not even a dog will bark at any person or animal. Then you will know that the Lord makes a distinction between Egypt and Israel." Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he would not listen.
Exodus chapter 12. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron in Egypt, "This month is to be for you the first month of your year. Tell the whole community of Israel that on the 10th day of this month, each man is to take a lamb for his family, one for each household. The animals you choose must be year-old males without defect. Take care of them until the 14th day of the month, when all the people of Israel must slaughter them at twilight. Then they are to take some of the blood and put it on the sides and tops of the door frames of the houses where they eat the lambs. That same night they are to eat the meat roasted over the fire, along with bitter herbs and bread made without yeast. Eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover. On that same night I will pass through Egypt and strike down every firstborn, both people and animals, and I will bring judgment on all the gods of Egypt. The blood will be a sign for you on the houses where you are. When I see the blood, I will pass over you. No destructive plague will touch you when I strike Egypt." The Israelites did just as the Lord commanded. At midnight, the Lord struck down all the firstborn in Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh to the firstborn of the prisoner in the dungeon, and the firstborn of all the livestock as well. There was loud wailing in Egypt, for there was not a house without someone dead. During the night, Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron and said, "Up, leave my people, you and the Israelites. Go, worship the Lord as you have requested. Take your flocks and herds and go, and also bless me." The Egyptians urged the people to hurry and leave, for otherwise, they said, "We will all die." So the Israelites left Egypt with their dough before yeast was added, carrying their kneading troughs wrapped in clothing on their shoulders. The Lord kept his promise and brought his people out of Egypt.
Exodus chapter 13. The Lord said to Moses, "Consecrate to me every firstborn male. The first offspring of every womb among the Israelites belongs to me, whether human or animal." Moses said to the people,
Remember this day, the day you came out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery, because the Lord brought you out with a mighty hand. Eat nothing containing yeast. Today, in the month of Abib, you are leaving. And when the Lord brings you into the land he promised, you are to observe this ceremony. On that day tell your son, I do this because of what the Lord did for me when I came out of Egypt. It will be like a sign on your hand and a reminder on your forehead that this law of the Lord is to be on your lips. For the Lord brought you out of Egypt with his mighty hand. When Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them on the road through the Philistine country, though that was shorter. For God said, if they face war, they might change their minds and return to Egypt. So God led the people around by the desert road toward the Red Sea. By day the Lord went ahead of them in a pillar of cloud to guide them, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, so they could travel by day or night.
Exodus chapter 14. Then the Lord said to Moses, Tell the Israelites to camp by the sea. Pharaoh will think the Israelites are wandering around the land in confusion, hemmed in by the desert. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he will pursue them. But I will gain glory for myself through Pharaoh and all his army, and the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord. When the king of Egypt was told that the people had fled, Pharaoh and his officials changed their minds. What have we done? We have let the Israelites go and have lost their services. So Pharaoh had his chariots made ready and took his army with him. All Pharaoh's horses and chariots pursued the Israelites and overtook them as they camped by the sea. As Pharaoh approached, the Israelites looked up, and there were the Egyptians marching after them. They were terrified and cried out to the Lord. They said to Moses, Was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you brought us to the desert to die? Moses answered the people, Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Then the Lord said to Moses, Raise your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea to divide the water so the Israelites can go through on dry ground. The angel of God, who had been traveling in front of Israel's army, withdrew and went behind them. The pillar of cloud also moved from in front and stood behind them, coming between the armies of Egypt and Israel. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and all that night the Lord drove the sea back with a strong east wind and turned it into dry land. The waters were divided, and the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground, with a wall of water on their right and on their left. The Egyptians pursued them, and all Pharaoh's horses and chariots and horsemen followed them into the sea. But during the last watch of the night, the Lord looked down from the pillar of fire and cloud at the Egyptian army and threw it into confusion. The wheels of their chariots came off, so that they had difficulty driving. And the Egyptians said, Let's get away from the Israelites. The Lord is fighting for them against Egypt. Then the Lord said to Moses, Stretch out your hand over the sea, so that the waters may flow back over the Egyptians. Moses stretched out his hand, and at daybreak the sea went back to its place. The Egyptians were fleeing toward it, and the Lord swept them into the sea. The water flowed back and covered the chariots and horsemen, the entire army of Pharaoh. Not one of them survived. But the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground. That day the Lord saved Israel from the hands of the Egyptians, and when the Israelites saw the mighty hand of the Lord displayed against Egypt, the people feared the Lord and put their trust in him and in Moses his servant.
Exodus chapter 15. Then Moses and the Israelites sang this song to the Lord. I will sing to the Lord, for he is highly exalted. Both horse and driver he has hurled into the sea. The Lord is my strength and my defense. He has become my salvation. He is my God, and I will praise him, my father's God, and I will exalt him. The Lord is a warrior. The Lord is his name. Miriam the prophet, Aaron's sister, took a timbrel in her hand, and all the women followed her with timbrels and dancing. Miriam sang to them, Sing to the Lord, for he is highly exalted. Both horse and driver he has hurled into the sea. Then Moses led Israel from the Red Sea into the desert. For 3 days they traveled without finding water. When they came to Marah, they could not drink its water because it was bitter. So the people grumbled against Moses, saying, What are we to drink? Then Moses cried out to the Lord, and the Lord showed him a piece of wood. He threw it into the water, and the water became fit to drink. There the Lord issued a decree and a law for them, and there he tested them. He said, If you listen carefully to the Lord your God and do what is right in his eyes, if you pay attention to his commands and keep all his decrees, I will not bring on you any of the diseases I brought on the Egyptians, for I am the Lord who heals you. Then they came to Elim, where there were 12 springs and 70 palm trees, and they camped there near the water.
Exodus chapter 16. The whole community of Israel left Elim and came into the wilderness of Sin between Elim and Sinai. They complained against Moses and Aaron, saying they would have been better off in Egypt, where they had plenty to eat, rather than die of hunger in the wilderness. The Lord told Moses that he would provide bread from heaven, and that the people should gather it day by day. On the 6th day, they were to gather twice as much, so they could rest on the Sabbath. That evening, quail came and covered the camp, and in the morning, the ground was covered with a fine, flake-like thing. The Israelites asked, What is it? And Moses said, It is the bread the Lord has given you. Each person gathered according to their need, but when some tried to keep it overnight, it rotted and was filled with worms. Only on the 6th day did it remain fresh, so the people could rest on the 7th. The people called the bread manna, and it tasted like wafers made with honey. God commanded that a jar of manna be kept as a testimony for future generations.
Exodus chapter 17. The Israelites continued their journey and found no water at Rephidim. They quarreled with Moses, demanding water. Moses cried out to the Lord, and God told him to strike the rock at Horeb. Moses did so, and water flowed out for the people to drink. The place was called Massa en Meribah, because they tested the Lord. Then Amalek came and fought against Israel. Moses told Joshua to choose men and go to battle, while he stood on the hill with the staff of God in his hand. As long as Moses held up his hands, Israel prevailed. When his hands grew heavy, Aaron and Hur supported them, one on each side. Israel defeated Amalek, and the Lord declared that his war against Amalek would continue from generation to generation.
Exodus chapter 18. Jethro, the priest of Midian, and Moses' father-in-law, came to meet Moses with his wife and sons. Moses told Jethro all that the Lord had done to deliver Israel. Jethro rejoiced and blessed God for his greatness over the gods of Egypt. The next day, Moses sat to judge the people from morning until evening. Jethro saw this and said, What you are doing is not good. You will wear yourself out. Appoint capable men, men who fear God and are trustworthy, to serve as leaders over groups of thousands, hundreds, 50s, and 10s. Let them judge smaller matters, but bring the great matters to you. Moses listened to Jethro's advice and did as he said. Jethro then returned to his own land.
Exodus chapter 19. In the 3rd month after leaving Egypt,
the Israelites came to the desert of Sinai and camped before the mountain. Moses went up to God, and the Lord called to him, saying, "You have seen how I brought you out of Egypt on eagle's wings. If you obey my voice and keep my covenant, you will be my treasured people, a kingdom of priests and a holy nation." Moses told the people, and they all answered, "We will do everything the Lord has spoken." Then the Lord told Moses to consecrate the people, wash their clothes, and prepare for the third day, for on that day he would come down on Mount Sinai in the sight of all. On the third day there was thunder, lightning, a thick cloud, and the sound of a trumpet that grew louder and louder. The mountain shook, and smoke rose from it, because the Lord descended in fire. Moses brought the people to meet God, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. The Lord called Moses up and warned that no one else should break through to look, or they would die.
Exodus chapter 20. God spoke all these words. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make idols or bow down to them. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God. Remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor, but the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord. Honor your father and your mother, so your days may be long in the land. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet anything that belongs to your neighbor. The people trembled at the thunder, lightning, the sound of the trumpet, and the mountain smoking. They begged Moses to speak to them instead of God, for they were afraid they would die. Moses said, "Do not fear. God has come to test you, that his fear may be before you, so you do not sin." The Lord then gave Moses further instructions about building altars. They were to make them of earth or uncut stones, and no steps were to be used, so that nakedness would not be exposed.
Exodus chapter 21. The Lord gave Moses laws for Israel. If you buy a Hebrew servant, he shall serve for 6 years and go free in the 7th. If he came alone, he leaves alone. If he came with a wife, she leaves with him. If his master gave him a wife and she bore children, the wife and children remain with the master, unless the servant chooses to stay. If he declares, "I love my master, my wife, and my children," then his ear is pierced as a sign, and he will serve for life. Anyone who strikes and kills another person must be put to death, unless it was accidental, in which case they may flee to a place of refuge. Whoever strikes or curses their father or mother must be put to death. Kidnapping is also punishable by death. If 2 people fight and one is injured but lives, the attacker must pay for lost time and medical care. If a master injures a servant, causing the loss of an eye or tooth, the servant goes free. If men fight and harm a pregnant woman so that her child is lost, but she herself lives, the offender must be fined. But if there is further injury, then the law stands: life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. If an ox gores someone to death, the ox must be stoned. If the ox was known to be dangerous and the owner failed to restrain it, both the ox and the owner are accountable.
Exodus chapter 22. If someone steals an ox or sheep and kills or sells it, they must repay multiple times its value. If the thief cannot pay, they must be sold for their theft. If fire spreads and destroys another's field, the one who started it must make restitution.
If someone gives their neighbor money or goods for safekeeping and it is stolen, the thief must repay double if caught. Sorceresses must not be allowed to live. Whoever sacrifices to other gods must be destroyed. Do not mistreat strangers, for you were strangers in Egypt. Do not harm widows or orphans, or God's anger will burn against you. If you lend money to the poor, do not charge interest. If you take your neighbor's cloak as a pledge, return it by sunset, for it may be their only covering. Do not curse God or the rulers of your people.
Exodus chapter 23. Do not spread false reports or join hands with the wicked. Do not show favoritism in court. If you see your enemy's ox or donkey wandering off, bring it back. If you see the donkey of someone who hates you struggling under a load, help them. Do not pervert justice or accept bribes. Do not oppress a foreigner, for you know what it feels like to be a stranger. For 6 years you may sow and reap your land, but in the 7th year let it rest so the poor and animals may eat. Work for 6 days, but on the 7th day rest, so that all may be refreshed. Celebrate 3 annual feasts for the Lord, the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the Feast of Harvest, and the Feast of Ingathering. Do not appear before the Lord empty-handed. The Lord said, I am sending an angel before you to guard you and bring you into the land I have prepared. Pay attention to him and obey his voice. Do not bow down to the gods of the nations you encounter, but destroy them completely.
Exodus chapter 24. God told Moses to come up the mountain with Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, and 70 elders of Israel. The people worshipped from a distance, while Moses alone came near to the Lord. Moses told the people all the words of the Lord, and they answered, We will do everything the Lord has said. He built an altar and set up 12 pillars for the 12 tribes. Young men offered burnt offerings and peace offerings. Moses read the book of the covenant to the people, and again they said, We will obey. He sprinkled the blood of the sacrifices on the altar and on the people, sealing the covenant. Moses and the elders went up and saw a vision of God, under whose feet was something like a pavement of sapphire. They ate and drank in his presence. Then the Lord called Moses higher, into the cloud of glory on the mountain. The cloud covered Sinai for 6 days, and on the 7th day God called Moses into the midst of it. To the people below, the glory of the Lord looked like a consuming fire. Moses stayed on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights.
Exodus chapter 25. The Lord told Moses to collect an offering from the people: gold, silver, bronze, fine linen, animal skins, acacia wood, oil, spices, and precious stones for the building of his sanctuary. God gave instructions for the Ark of the Covenant. It was to be made of acacia wood, overlaid with pure gold, with rings and poles for carrying. The cover, called the mercy seat, was to be made of pure gold, with 2 cherubim facing each other, wings spread over the mercy seat. There, God promised to meet with Moses and speak with him. The Lord also gave instructions for the table of the bread of presence, made of acacia wood and overlaid with gold, and for the golden lampstand with 7 lamps made of 1 piece of pure gold, decorated with almond blossoms.
Exodus chapter 26. The Lord gave Moses instructions for making the tabernacle. It was to be built with 10 curtains of fine linen, blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, with designs of cherubim woven into them. Each curtain was to be joined together to make 2 sets, then clasped with gold to form 1 sanctuary covering. Over these were to be 11 curtains of goat hair, joined and clasped with bronze, as well as coverings of ram skins dyed red and fine leather. The frames for the tabernacle were to be made of acacia wood, standing upright, with silver bases and gold overlay. Crossbars would hold them together. The tabernacle was to be divided into two sections by a veil of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn with cherubim designs. The inner room would be the most holy place, where the Ark of the Covenant would be placed. Outside the veil was the holy place, with the table and lampstand. A curtain served as the entrance, supported by pillars.
Exodus chapter 27. The altar of burnt offering was to be made of acacia wood, overlaid with bronze, square in shape, with horns on its corners. It was to have bronze utensils, pots, shovels, bowls, forks, and fire pans. A bronze grating was to be set inside it. The courtyard of the tabernacle was to be enclosed with curtains of fine linen hung on bronze posts with silver hooks. The entrance was to be a 20-cubit wide curtain of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn. The entire courtyard was 100 cubits long and 50 wide. The people of Israel were to bring pure olive oil for the lamps, so they might burn continually. Aaron and his sons were to keep the lamps burning before the Lord, from evening until morning.
Exodus chapter 28. God commanded special garments for Aaron and his sons to serve as priests. For Aaron there was to be a breastpiece, an ephod, a robe, a tunic, a turban, and a sash, made of fine linen, gold, blue, purple, and scarlet yarn. The ephod was to have shoulder pieces with 2 onyx stones engraved with the names of the tribes of Israel. The breastpiece was to hold 12 precious stones, each engraved with the name of one tribe. The Urim and Thummim were placed in the breastpiece to help discern God's will. The robe was made entirely of blue, with pomegranates of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn around its hem, alternating with golden bells. When Aaron ministered, the sound of the bells would be heard so that he would not die. A golden plate was to be fastened to the turban, engraved with the words, "Holy to the Lord." Aaron's sons were also given tunics, sashes, and caps for their service.
Exodus chapter 29. God gave instructions for consecrating Aaron and his sons. A young bull and 2 rams, along with unleavened bread, cakes, and wafers, were to be prepared. The priests were washed, clothed in their garments, and anointed with oil. The bull was brought as a sin offering. Its blood was put on the altar, and its flesh burned outside the camp. 1 ram was offered as a burnt offering, wholly consumed by fire. The other ram was used for ordination. Its blood was placed on Aaron and his sons, on the right ear, right thumb, and right big toe, signifying consecration. Parts of the ram, along with bread, were waved before the Lord and then burned, while other portions were given to the priests as food. For 7 days this ordination process was repeated, and the altar was consecrated. God declared that He would dwell among the Israelites and be their God, and they would know that He was the Lord who brought them out of Egypt.
Exodus chapter 30. The Lord instructed that an altar of incense be made of acacia wood, overlaid with gold. It was to stand before the veil of the most holy place, and Aaron was to burn incense on it every morning and evening. No strange incense or unauthorized offerings were allowed. Each Israelite was to give a half-shekel offering for the service of the tabernacle, as atonement for their lives. A bronze basin was also commanded to be placed between the tent and the altar, for Aaron and his sons to wash their hands and feet before ministering. the Lord gave Moses a recipe for holy anointing oil made of precious spices and olive oil, and for a special incense blend. These were to be holy, set apart for God's service alone.
Exodus chapter 31. The Lord said to Moses, I have chosen Bezalel of the tribe of Judah, and I have filled him with the Spirit of God, with wisdom, understanding, and skill in all kinds of craftsmanship. I have also appointed Oholiab of the tribe of Dan to assist him, and I have given skill to all the craftsmen, so they may build everything I have commanded, the tent of meeting, the ark of the covenant, the furnishings, the priestly garments, the anointing oil, and the incense. The Lord also reminded Moses about the Sabbath. The Sabbath is a sign between me and the people of Israel for all generations, so that you may know I am the Lord who makes you holy. Anyone who works on the Sabbath must be cut off from the people. 6 days you may work, but the seventh day is a day of rest, holy to the Lord. When God finished speaking with Moses on Mount Sinai, he gave him the 2 tablets of the covenant, written with his own finger.
Exodus chapter 32. When the people saw that Moses delayed coming down the mountain, they gathered around Aaron and said, Make us gods to lead us. Aaron told them to bring their gold earrings, and he fashioned a golden calf. They said, These are your gods, O Israel, who brought you out of Egypt. They offered sacrifices, feasted, and danced before it. The Lord told Moses, Go down, for the people have corrupted themselves. Leave me, so that my anger may destroy them. But Moses pleaded, Turn from your fierce anger. Remember Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, to whom you swore to give descendants as numerous as the stars. And the Lord relented. Moses came down with the 2 tablets in his hands, but when he saw the calf and the dancing, he threw the tablets and broke them at the foot of the mountain. He burned the calf, ground it to powder, scattered it on water, and made the people drink it. Moses confronted Aaron, who said, They gave me gold. I threw it into the fire, and out came this calf. Moses called out, Whoever is for the Lord, come to me. The sons of Levi gathered, and at Moses' command they struck down about 3,000 men. Moses then returned to plead with God to forgive the people.
Exodus chapter 33. The Lord told Moses to lead the people toward the promised land, but said he would not go among them because of their stubbornness. The people mourned these words and removed their ornaments. Moses set up a tent outside the camp, called the Tent of Meeting, where he would speak with the Lord. The Lord spoke to Moses face to face, as a man speaks with his friend. Moses said, If your presence does not go with us, do not send us up from here. How will anyone know that you are pleased with your people unless you go with us? The Lord answered, My presence will go with you, and I will give you rest. Then Moses asked, Show me your glory. The Lord replied, I will cause all my goodness to pass before you, and I will proclaim my name, the Lord. But you cannot see my face, for no one may see me and live. You shall stand on the rock, and I will cover you with my hand until I have passed by. Then you will see my back, but my face must not be seen.
Exodus chapter 34. The Lord told Moses to chisel out 2 new stone tablets like the first, and he would write on them the words that were on the former tablets. Moses went up Mount Sinai early in the morning. The Lord descended in a cloud, stood with him there, and proclaimed his name. The Lord, compassionate and gracious, slow to anger, abounding in love and faithfulness, maintaining love to thousands, forgiving wickedness, rebellion, and sin. Yet he does not leave the guilty unpunished, bringing consequences on the children to the third and fourth generation. Moses bowed and said, "If I have found favor in your sight, let the Lord go with us, though we are a stiff-necked people. Forgive our sin and take us as your inheritance." God renewed his covenant, promising to drive out the nations before them. He commanded them not to make covenants with other peoples or worship their gods. They were to keep the feast of unleavened bread, redeem their firstborn, keep the Sabbath, and celebrate the feasts he appointed. When Moses came down from Mount Sinai with the 2 tablets, his face was shining because he had spoken with the Lord. The people were afraid to come near him, so he covered his face with a veil when speaking to them.
Exodus chapter 35. Moses assembled the people and reminded them, "For 6 days you may work, but the 7th is holy. Do not even light a fire on the Sabbath." He told them to bring an offering for the tabernacle: gold, silver, bronze, fine linen, goat hair, ram skins, acacia wood, oil, spices, and stones. Everyone whose heart was willing came with gifts. Men and women alike brought their offerings: jewelry, fabrics, materials, and skills. The leaders brought precious stones and spices. Skilled women spun yarn, and others worked with fine linen and goat hair. Moses said, "See, the Lord has chosen Bezalel and filled him with the Spirit of God, with skill, intelligence, knowledge, and craftsmanship. He and Oholiab have been filled with the ability to teach others. They are skilled in all kinds of artistic work for building the sanctuary."
Exodus chapter 36. Bezalel, Oholiab, and every skilled person worked as the Lord had commanded. The people continued bringing offerings every morning until the craftsmen finally told Moses, "The people are bringing more than enough." So Moses gave an order for them to stop bringing. The craftsmen made the tabernacle with 10 curtains of fine linen, blue, purple, and scarlet yarn embroidered with cherubim. They joined them together with clasps of gold. They made 11 curtains of goat hair for a tent over the tabernacle, joined with bronze clasps. They also made coverings of ram skins dyed red, and another of fine leather. They constructed frames of acacia wood overlaid with gold, with silver bases. Crossbars held them together. They made the veil of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn with cherubim, and sat it up with 4 posts of acacia wood overlaid with gold. A curtain was also made for the entrance to the tent. Exodus chapter 37. Bezalel made the ark of acacia wood, overlaid with pure gold inside and out, with a gold molding around it. 4 rings of gold were attached for the poles to carry it. The cover, called the mercy seat, was made of pure gold, with 2 cherubim of gold at the ends, wings spread upward, overshadowing the mercy seat. He made the table of acacia wood, overlaid with gold, with rings and poles for carrying it, and utensils of pure gold. He made the lampstand of pure gold, hammered work, with cups shaped like almond blossoms, branches, and lamps. He also made the altar of incense, overlaid with gold, with rings and poles, and the anointing oil and pure incense.
Exodus chapter 38. Bezalel made the altar of burnt offering of acacia wood overlaid with bronze. It was square, with horns at the corners, and had bronze utensils and a grating inside. He made a bronze basin from the mirrors of the women who served at the entrance of the tent. He made the courtyard with curtains of fine linen hung on bronze posts with silver hooks. The entrance curtain was 20 cubits wide, of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn and fine linen. The materials used for the tabernacle were recorded: gold, silver, and bronze from the offerings, given according to the census of the people.
Exodus chapter 39. They made the priestly garments of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn and fine linen. The ephod was made with gold, with onyx stones set in gold filigree, engraved with the names of the tribes. The breastpiece was made with 4 rows of precious stones, each representing one tribe, and the Urim and Thummim were placed inside. The robe of the ephod was made entirely of blue, with pomegranates of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn around the hem, alternating with golden bells. The tunics, sashes, and caps were made of fine linen. They made the plate of pure gold, the sacred crown, and engraved on it, "Holy to the Lord." When all the work of the tabernacle was finished, the Israelites brought everything to Moses: the tent, furnishings, garments, and utensils. Moses inspected the work and saw that they had done it just as the Lord commanded, so Moses blessed them.
Exodus chapter 40. The Lord said to Moses, "Set up the tabernacle on the first day of the first month." Moses placed the ark inside, hung the veil, set up the table, arranged the bread, set the lampstand, lit the lamps, placed the altar of incense, and hung the curtain at the entrance. He set up the altar of burnt offering and the basin for washing, and arranged the courtyard. Then he anointed and consecrated everything. He brought Aaron and his sons, washed them, dressed them in their garments, anointed them, and consecrated them as priests. On the first day of the first month, in the second year, the tabernacle was set up. Moses finished the work. Then the cloud covered the tent of meeting, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. Moses could not enter because the cloud settled on it. From that day on, whenever the cloud lifted from the tabernacle, the Israelites set out on their journey. If the cloud did not lift, they stayed. By day, the cloud of the Lord was over the tabernacle, and by night there was fire in the cloud, visible to all the people of Israel in every stage of their travels.
That's the end of the book of Exodus. Please like, subscribe, and follow for more videos. We will continue with the book of Leviticus, where we will pick up with Moses and the laws of God.